This is Chapter 13 in the Psychology of Motivation, Section 1. The main idea is psychologists study motivation to explain why people behave the way they do. Motivation. Why do some people like to travel to faraway places or to try new foods? Why are other people happy to stay at home and eat the same meals every week? The answer to these questions and other questions about why people do the things they do relates to motivation. A motive is a stimulus that moves a person to behave in ways designed to accomplish a specific goal. Motives are considered theoretical states because they cannot be seen or measured directly. Psychologists assume that people and other organisms are motivated when they observe the people trying to reach their goals. The psychology of motivation deals with the whys of behavior. When psychologists speak of motives, they often speak of needs. A need is a condition in which we require something we lack. People have both biological and psychological needs. People fulfill biological needs to survive. An example of a biological need is the need for oxygen or food. Biological needs, such as for food and sleep, can occur because of physical deprivation. That is, people feel hungry or sleepy when they have not eaten or slept for a while. Needs: achievement, self-esteem, and sense of belonging, and social approval are examples of psychological needs. Now, like biological needs, psychological needs motivate people to accomplish certain goals. However, psychological needs differ from biological needs in two important ways. First, psychological needs are not necessarily based on deprivation. A person with a need to achieve an A on a test may already be an honor roll student. Second, unlike biological needs, which are inborn, psychological needs may be learned. So you were born with biological needs. People possess common biological characteristics. Thus, they have similar physical needs. For example, all people must eat to survive. Therefore, all people need food. However, people have different psychological needs because they learn from a variety of experiences. Psychological needs are shaped by culture and learning. So people's psychological needs differ. For example, some people prefer vegetarian diets because they believe it is morally wrong to kill animals for food. Drives. Biological needs and psychological needs give rise to drives, the forces that motivate an organism to take action. The biological need for food gives rise to hunger drive. The biological need for water gives rise to the thirst drive. And although hunger and thirst are aroused by biological needs, the experience of them is psychological. So that means I guess you can kind of overcome it or put it in the back of your mind. It's all in your head. But eventually you're going to need to do those things. The longer we are deprived from something such as food or water, the stronger our drive becomes. For example, our hunger drive is stronger 6 hours after eating than it is 20 minutes after eating. All right, theories of motivation. Psychologists agree that motives prompt behavior, but they are not in agreement about the nature of motivation. The leading theories of motivation are instinct theory, drive reduction theory, humanistic theory, and social cultural theory. Behavior patterns, genetically transmitted from generation to generation, are known as instincts. Sometimes they are called fixed action patterns. Researchers have discovered that many animals are born to act in certain ways in certain situations. Siamese fighting fish, reared in isolation, display the same instinct behavior as they do with those raised with other Siamese fighting fish. Male fans Male fan their fins and gills, and typical threatening posture when other males are introduced to the ranks. Similarity, bees perform the instinct dance to rely on location and food of other bees. Scientists have found that bees from different parts of the world use essentially the same dances. So animals have instincts that they're born with. And an instinct is genetically patterns transmitted from generation to generation. Interesting. Behavior patterns genetically transmitted from generation to generation. That is an instinct. All right, however, not all animals behave purely instinctively. Studies have shown that birds acquire the songs characteristic of their species only partly by instinct. Young birds need to hear the song of their species in order to learn how to communicate effectively. Psychologists once believed that human behavior, like that of animals, is instinctive. In the late 1800s and early 1900s, psychologists William James and William McDowell argued that people have instincts that foster survival and social behavior. That sounds pretty believable. Today, however, most psychologists do not believe that human behavior is primarily motivated by instinct. If behavior patterns are instinctive, they argue it must be found through a species. However, there is so much variation in the way people behave that much of human behavior is unlikely to be instinctive. Pretty much means everyone acts differently, so you can't have this theory. But it might apply to most humans, but humans are very unpredictable, especially with their behavior. All right, psychologist Clark Hull formulated the drive reduction theory in the late 1930s. Drive reduction theory is based on learning as well as motivation. According to this theory, people and animals experience a drive arising from a need as an unpleasant tension. They learn to do whatever will reduce the tension by reducing the drive, such as eating, to reduce the hunger drive. Some drives, such as hunger, are caused by biological needs, which are inborn. Other drives, such as the drive for money, is learned from experience. If you're living in Alaska, living a subsistence lifestyle, you probably won't be motivated to earn money. Your drive for money won't be there, but your drive to secure a moose or a caribou so you can eat and have a good shelter for finding wood and building a cabin, those drives might be real. Now, in the modern world where we live here in New Jersey, your drive is not going to be, hey, let me go out and try to find some food like a moose or a caribou today. Our drives are, hey, let's make some money so we can put food on the table by going to the grocery store. So according to drive reduction theory, people will try to reduce these learned drives, just as they try to reduce their biological drives. Basic drives such as hunger motivate us to restore the internal state of the equilibrium or balance. Your equilibrium is your balance. The tendency to maintain this state of equilibrium in the body is called homeostasis. Homeostasis works like a thermostat. When our room temperature drops below a certain point called the set point, the heat comes on. The heat stays on until the set point is reached. Similarity, according to the theory, when people are hungry, they will eat until they reach a level at which they are no longer hungry. Drive reduction theory seems to apply to many biological drives, including hunger and thirst. Yet, people sometimes eat when they are not hungry. Like when you're stressed. Some people eat when they're stressed. They also often act to increase rather to decrease the tension they experience. For example, some people enjoy riding roller coasters and driving fast cars. Yet these activities increase rather than decrease the tension they experience. Clearly, drive reduction theory does not explain all motivation. Some psychologists known as humanists argue that instinct theory and drive reduction theory suggests that human behavior is mechanically and directed only towards surviving and reducing tension. According to humanistic psychologists, however, people are also motivated by the conscious desire for personal growth and artistic fulfillment. In fact, they argue sometimes our drive to fulfill such needs outweighs our drive to meet more basic human characteristics. So, for example, some people need artistic or political goals, even though they may have a difficult time affording food, or they may have given up a certain level of comfort or security to achieve their goals. Some artists, musicians, and writers commit themselves to their artistic goals even when they are unable to make a living by doing so. Maybe because that's their drive, that's their passion. Maybe that's why they're doing it. That seems to make sense to me. All right, another humanistic theory is self-accusation. Actualization, that is a tough word to say. Self-actualization refers to the need to become what one believes he or she is capable of being. Interesting. The desire to fulfill oneself takes one past the point of just satisfying one's physical needs. Okay, refers to the need to become what one believes he or she is capable of doing. So I see myself capable of doing a lot of things, but do I see myself becoming an astronaut? No, because I don't see myself doing that. So I see myself being a teacher. I saw myself joining the military and doing that. I see myself graduating college. I did that. So I guess this theory definitely is geared towards me if I think of it that way. Just believe and you will achieve. All right. And here's a diagram of some of the theories we talked about and some of the goals and motives why people do the things that they do. Psychological needs and biological needs. All right, psychological needs are, if you remember, is like self-esteem, what people think about us, what we think about ourselves. Biological needs are food and water, warmth and rest. Those are things that we are born with. If we look at the red, this is like our self-esteem. That includes achievement, competence, and recognizing respect from others. So let's review what we talked about. Or let's go over this. Social cultural theorists argue that even if basic drives such as hunger are inborn, cultural experiences and factors influence the behavior that people use to satisfy those drives. The foods people eat and the way they eat those foods are shaped by culture. Culture experience affects whether people prefer hot dogs or tacos, coffee or tea, apples or pineapples. Cultural experiences also affect whether people prefer kissing lips or rubbing noses to express feelings of affection. So, depending on where you grew up and your environment, your psychological needs might differ from other people. All right, so that's your lesson today. Thanks for listening. Peace out.